All right, guys, it's time to put the video out. I really haven't wanted to do this video. I don't really benefit from it. Nobody really benefits from it, and like it's just a petty situation altogether. Like, I don't really know. I want to be organic. I want to be truthful. I wish other parties would do the same. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to facts in today's video. I'm going to let you know what unfolded, how it went down, and basically what's unfolded since then. And I'm going to stay away from the speculation. I'm going to stay away from the opinions because I've got strong ones and I don't think I'll look good. And it's such a bad situation. So, anyways, here we go. All right, guys. So first, a little bit about myself. If you haven't followed any of my content, which is a good chance, I'm a small fish in a big pond. Unless you're a coach or an elite junior that has used my products, you probably don't know who I am. So my name is George Roy. I'm a professional coach and have been involved in the golf industry since 2010, when I decided I was going to go back to college and pursue a career in the golf industry. I actually thought that I was going to be into the resort management side of everything. And when I got my first teaching experience, it was at the Hank Haney World Headquarters in Dallas, Texas. And I fell in love with coaching. I got to work with hundreds of juniors over the summer, got to shadow some of the best coaches in the game. This is before the flight scope and stuff came out. So I got to go through the old school ringer of diagnosing ball flights and using video analysis at I think the frames per second were 120 frames per second. So I got to come up with the old school guys. I got to learn the art of coaching golf, learning how to read the ball flight and learning how to understand impact and the biomechanics and stuff. And I fell in love with it immediately, a true passion for the game through coaching. And so when I got back to school after that gig, first thing I did was start an academy with a buddy of mine, Smash Factor Golf. We taught out of Assateague Greens in West Ocean City, Maryland, and just loved it. Just loved it. So I continued to pursue the coaching stuff. And actually, one of the things that I learned while I was down at Haney was there were several different string drills that we would do. And if you've ever seen me present my low zone stuff, you know that I absolutely hate string. I hate survey tape. I hate string. I hate all the amount of time it takes to set it all up. I wanted to create an environment that I could engage the student in very quickly and offer them a measurable feedback while they were practicing and training, but also use it as essentially an obstacle course for their skills and skill development. So I created that product and continued teaching. This is the original low zone. If you guys remember that will be coming back. We're just working on getting the putting pucks. But anyway, I got involved in adaptive golf after that. And that was probably the pinnacle of my learning experience thus far in coaching, having to deal with some of the horrible injuries that our vets have suffered in combat, and watching them go through the rehabilitative process and watching them pick up golf as a part of that process and watching them develop in a game that's already can be very difficult when you don't have a debilitative injury. It was awesome. So yeah, I love coaching. I love thinking differently. I love the weird swings. I love the challenge of having some type of a handicap, a physical handicap that normally people think is a barrier to what they can do in life, and they overcome that barrier, and watching them progress. It's just amazing. So anyway, after that, my experience with Salute Military Golf, and actually I was working as an assistant pro and a director of instruction at Breton Bay Golf and Country Club in Southern Maryland at the same time. All that came to an end, and my wife and I decided that we wanted to move and we wanted to raise our son down in Florida by the beach. We love surfing. We love the golf culture, or I loved the golf culture. She loved the palm trees and the beaches. And so we headed down to Florida, and I started an academy down there, first at the Grand Reserve Golf Club in Palm Coast, and then also at Royal St. Augustine in the old town of St. Augustine. And I also in 2015 released that Low Zone product actually to the market. When I released that product, I recruited some really, really good coaches that I admired, coaches that were doing their own thing. They were kind of blazing their own trail in the golf industry. And I wanted them to review the product, maybe see from a different perspective what kind of drills and games they could come up with, what kind of challenges they could come up with, and how they targeted their individual demographics. So I reached out to Nicole Weller, Michelle Holmes, Andy Miller up at Led Rock Golf and Country Club, all really, really good junior instructors and all different demographics, different niches. So they were part of my discovery team in 2015 when I first launched the Low Zone. Now, fast forward to the 2019, 2020 timeframe, we all know what went down. Right before that, my wife and I had decided that we wanted to move. We wanted to up and move. We had just had our daughter, and we decided we wanted something that was a little bit better than just that beach life, that constant go, 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 work all the time. And so we decided we wanted to homestead, try our hand at homesteading. And we moved up here to Tennessee and found a beautiful property out here in the middle of nowhere, and started our homestead adventure. And then we all know what kicked off in 2020. And around that time, I had decided that I was going to try and find a partner to license the Low Zone stuff. And by this time, also chip tack toe. If you guys have seen the chip tack toe grids that are floating around, those have been around for a couple years now. But we had come to an agreement. I had talked to a couple different parties. One party was about a licensing agreement, where they were going to take over manufacturing and warehousing and fulfillment, and it was going to free me up and allow me to focus on the education and the marketing and generating content. That was my first choice. The other one was just a direct buyout. There is a retailer that I had been working with over a couple years. They had been procured by another company, bought out by a corporate company, and they were looking for vendors that they could buy out. So I didn't really want to step away from my product completely, because there's a whole training system and a whole training methodology behind the Low Zone system. So we had come to an agreement with the first party, my first choice, which was a licensing agreement so that I could stay in the education side and the content creation side of it. Well, right around that same time that I got this contract from that party, before we could finalize everything, I found out that USKids Golf had started producing their own chip tack toe, which was interesting because in May of 2021, Jim Hardy reached out to me on behalf of USKids, told me that they wanted to retail the chip tack toe stuff. And I told him that I was already in negotiations for licensing, and that was that. I left it alone. I never responded to another message after he said that they wanted to pursue retail, as was my legal obligation being in negotiations. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into contract law, and full disclosure is one of them. So, when I found that out, I reached out to the other party, which was Operation 36 at the time. Ryan Daly and myself had chatted for months, gone back and forth, tried to figure out what was going to be beneficial for both of us, how we could both pursue this, with one mind, essentially. And we had finally come to our agreement. So when I found out that USKids was producing the stuff, I reached out to Ryan and let him know what was going on. And because they were being bought out by Golf Genius at the time, any type of litigation or infringement, pursuit of litigation for infringement could have been a barrier to their contract with Golf Genius. It was actually a clause in their buyout contract. So contract talks right there, those negotiations immediately stopped, even though we had already come to an agreement. After that, I reached back out to Jim and kind of let him know my feelings and everything. And he asked that I offer grace. And so I offered grace. I took it as a mistake. I did not see them selling any of the products online, or at least couldn't find them. So I figured it was kind of a done deal. They accepted my cease and desist as a formal cease and desist, and did the right thing. Well, I decided after all this that because the negotiations had fallen through, we were going to relaunch. We were going to bring back the chip tack toe stuff, new and improved. Was going to recolor, rebrand the low zone stuff for just brighter colors, the red, white, and blue. I originally released that as a Patriot edition when I was with Salute Military Golf, and gave a bunch of those units to the guys in the program, as well as the instructors and stuff and board members. And everybody liked the red, white, and blue so much when I released it that we just stuck with the red, white, and blue. But it wasn't really bright for the distances that you can actually use this thing at. So I wanted to liven it up. And I get down to the PGA show this year, and just like typical PGA shows, I'm doing my meet and greets and shaking hands and networking and telling everybody I'm coming back. And all goes well at the PGA show. Fast forward a month later, and I receive this picture from what is it, the big golf show down in South Carolina, the Great Golf Show, or whatever it is in the Carolinas. And USKids has got a booth set up, not with my chip tack toe grid, but with a speed strap from my low zone system. Now, patent was pending on the chip tack toe stuff at the time when they infringed on that design. But the patent for the low zone stuff had already been awarded. So when we break this patent open, you'll see that there is, and if you've seen me present the low zone and you know all the different configurations that we can run through with it, you'll recognize these pictures. The first one is essentially the exploded view of our speed straps. You'll see those brakes in there. You'll see the putting puck. Now, the system came with 5 putting pucks, but for the purpose of the design patent, we just needed the one. So there's the speed straps. Okay. And then we get into the true novelty of it, the crosshair configuration, where those speed straps essentially create the different proximity rings while dividing the target into quadrants. And, it's there. So I guess what happened was when they researched the patent, they didn't understand what was going on with the view, because it's not a utility patent. That was one of the things I did to kind of protect myself while I got the system and the methodology out there, was just do a design patent, because the threshold for a design patent is consumer confusion. If the consumer pulls 2 products off of a shelf and can't distinguish between either one of them, that design patent protects the original design. Okay. And what USKids has essentially done is they've tried to work around my patent. Now, actually, I said I was going to stay away from the speculation. That's speculative. Okay. But what they've done is they've taken my speed strap from a 5-zone speed strap down to a 3-zone speed strap. They used the red, white, and blue colors. Yeah, I know that it was their branding, but it's a direct copy of the speed strap. And it's pretty blatantly obvious, especially when you consider 3 of the coaches that were on my discovery team were top 50 USKids. They knew about the product. They had been exposed to the product, and they even reached out wanting to sell the product. So I've reached back out before I came out with the Facebook post. If you followed the Facebook post, I reached back out. I reached out to Jim Hardy in February, immediately when I got that text message of the picture of their booth with a speed strap, my speed strap with the USKids logo on it, after the first instance, right? And basically Jim's, it was no longer George offer grace. It was, you need to contact Joshua Kitchen, which is their director of product development. So I reached out, let them know how I felt, let them know the legal implications of everything and the pursuit that I was going to have if they didn't correct their errors. And they have done nothing. They have done nothing except, oh, we've done nothing wrong. That's actually not true. I did get a message from Josh that said something about settlement, and I'll put all these screenshots in here as I go through this video. But yeah, so I, what do I do? I don't want to go to court, but I will. The last thing I want to do is draw up civil and criminal complaints, but I will. And they're thinking, oh, it's an infringement. No, it's more than infringement. It's tortious interference. It's unfair business practice. There are trade laws in place in every state across the U.S. on fair trade. It's a Fair Trade Act, actually. Consumer and Fair Trade Act is probably the title of the statute, but every state's got it. And you'll see as I play this out, and they'll see if it has to go to a courtroom, they'll see that there are certainly damages that I can pursue. So, anyways, before I get into this conversation, I want to invite Dan Van Horn, Jim Hardy, and Joshua Kinchin from USKids Golf onto my podcast. If anything I state in this is untrue or misleading, you guys can come on here and I will apologize publicly from the bottom of my heart. But I think we both know you guys won't come on here. And after I'm finished painting this picture, you're going to have a really hard time rebutting any of it. So we can correct it or we can go to court. That's where I'm at. But either way, the truth should be set free, right? Everybody should be invested in honesty and truth and morals and ethics and the values that we want to raise our kids in. Isn't that why we choose golf? It's the gentleman's game. It's the game of honesty, right? So we can all get together on my podcast and all be honest with one another and the public. Or we can continue to act like we didn't do things with intent and knowledge. So anyways, here's the conversation. All right, so that's my situation, right? But after all this, throughout the process of this, I start doing some digging. And what do I find? I find a pattern of what seems to be their modus operandi. Now, go back to when I first released the Low Zone. I released that at the PGA show in the Inventor Spotlight, and the following year actually partnered up with Dr. Gary Wyron's Golf Around the World, golftrainingaids.com, and was a vendor with golftrainingaids.com. So I got to see a lot of the different products that were coming out. There were a hot retailer, and a lot of the vendors that are at the show always wanted to have them as one of their retailers. So they would always come through the booth. And I remember seeing Birdie Golf come through and the little birdie tees that have gotten really popular for simulator use and junior golf camps and stuff like that. And so I also find out about a product that's on USKids site, and it looks an awful lot like the birdie golf tee. Seemed like a pattern. So now back to my conversation with Jim. I had let him know that after doing a little digging and asking around, because our networks are very much intertwined with one another, that his character had been called into question. And he was real shocked by that. But something that I found funny was that he mentioned Op 36 as if they were the ones who had called his character into question, but they weren't. So I got a funny feeling and I started digging around a little bit. And I called a buddy of mine who's working as an independent contractor who knows both of these parties and is kind of close enough to everything to have his ear to the ground. He only says 5 words to me. He says, look at their player pathway. So I go look at their player pathway. Now, I've been involved with Op 36 since right around 2015 or 2016. So it's been 7 or 8 years since I've known these guys. They had only been doing their program for a couple of years at the time. And while I have not used the Op 36 program myself, I'm familiar enough with it to recognize it and know what it is as the players progress through their pathway. So I get on USKids site and look at their player pathway, and sure enough, it looks an awful lot like the Op 36 player pathway. So further digging, I get a hold of I go back to Birdie Golf. I contact Mario Kaya, is the CEO and founder of Birdie Golf. I called him on the phone and talking and letting him know about my situation and kind of asking some questions to draw some information out of him. And he tells me that, yes, he had had some conversations with USKids Golf, and that when they wanted to have his birdie tees for a product to go, I guess, with a package that they were putting together, that they only wanted 2 sizes of the tee, but because he sells his with a set, there was a way he could only do sets of the 8 or whatever. So speculation, it looks like what they did was they sent the birdie tee out to a production team in China so that they wouldn't have to buy sets of 8 and only the 2 sizes that they wanted. But the birdie golf tee is patented. So another clear, blatant workaround. Now, there are ways that you can kind of get through the skin of your teeth in the legal system, but when you've got the rights to a design as a man, such as myself or such as Mario, those are your rights. So there are implications to working around stuff, especially when you have, willfully gone out and tried to create dialogue with a company to procure their products, and then you just decide, oh, that's not going to work for us. We'll just make our own. Sound like sound business practice to you? Does that sound like the values of a company that's teaching kids values? I don't know. Again, there's an invite to come on the podcast, and I'll take it all back if I'm wrong. So anyways, I'm back. Regardless of how this plays out, you can get your speed straps from georgeroygolf.com, and they're brighter and bigger, and they actually work on multiple fronts rather than just a single dimensional product. If they had actually understood my product, they wouldn't have created what they did. I don't know. It's frustrating. I want to be honest, but I want to be honest without being a dick. And it's hard. It's hard, especially when you spent the time to stay up in the middle of the night putting stickers on product or sewing labels on stuff, or you can't sleep because you're running numbers through your head, just to have some big corporation just say, hey, we're just going to make our own. We're just going to make our own. We know that you've invested in the patent protection. We know that you've gone out and marketed this product and taught coaches how to use it, but we're just gonna add it to our game book and we're gonna sell it to our coaches. Values and morals, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have those, what do you got? Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching this. Again, I don't want to be doing this video. Nobody's going to look good. It's not going to make me look good. It's not going to make USKids look good, but hopefully you got the truth. If you're spending your money with a company, you need to know who they are. If you're spending money with me, guess what? I'm the one that packages everything. You're talking about the true small business owner. I package everything. I go through every single unit to make sure that there's no defects. Every single one. If you're getting a package from me, it was handwritten notes most of the time, handwritten labels that goes on this stuff. That's what you get with a small business. If you have a problem, you can pick up your phone and you can either call me or you can email me and you'll get a response. You know, it might not be right away, but you're going to get a response, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that at the end of the day, I'm offering high quality products, simple to use, effective in their training, and most importantly, they're fun to practice with. That's it. That's my goal. So, truth and everything I just said. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope if you've got my products that you're enjoying them, and subscribe to here on YouTube or follow me on Instagram. As we get more inventory in, I'm going to start pushing more content, and I'm looking forward to getting into the education side of things too. So if you're a coach who's looking for a better way to engage your students, a better way to develop their skills and get them on a path to really playing good golf in a very short period of time, give me a buzz. You can reach me. I will see you guys in the next one.